Today we've got some serious updates straight out of the Bay. And honestly, there are things here most of the national media is not even noticing yet. There's a real quarterback decision that can change the direction of the season. A behind-the-scenes move at a position of need, two names ready to explode in the second half of the year, and a quiet change on the offensive line that might be the real turning point. Do you think this team still has enough juice to fight deep into January with a real playoff vibe? You won't believe what we've got today, so sit down, drop a like, and let's jump straight into the news. Since you hit play to hear the truth about this team, we have to start with the spot that messes most with the heart of the Niner gang. Quarterback out in Santa Clara, Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are back on the practice field, still in a controlled rhythm, but the message is clear. The plan is to have Purdy on the field this Sunday. Kyle Shanahan didn't hide it. Officially, he's listed as limited on the injury report, but the head coach himself admitted that's almost just paperwork. The idea is to rev him up during the week until they're fully confident he can handle the load. And that's where the real question kicks in. Why stick with Purdy if Mac Jones has been playing well and holding things down? Shanahan answered that straight up. He praised Mac a lot, said he's been great, but made it clear that if Brock is healthy, he's the starter. That reveals two big things. First, how much this staff still believes Purdy is the guy to lead this offense when things tighten up in January. Second, how careful they are not to rush anything and risk losing their quarterback again because of a premature return. Beyond Purdy, this practice is also huge for Ricky Pearsall, Alfred Collins, and D. Winters, all listed as limited. With Pearsall, Shanahan basically said, "They told me he's healthy, now I want to see it with my own eyes." That means if he moves well, he's good to go. And that's where things get interesting because a healthy Pearsall adds a whole new dimension to this offense, especially on intermediate routes, helping take pressure off Ayuk and Kittle physically. Collins and Winters walk that thin line between need and caution. The defense has been dealing with injuries and a clear dip in performance, and any healthy body that can contribute changes the whole rotation. Shanahan made it clear he only gives the full green light when he's convinced there's no major risk of a setback. So the atmosphere in Santa Clara is cautious optimism. The 49ers faithful looks at this practice report and really sees just one question. Is this finally the week when this team gets close to full strength, right when it matters most? And there's another detail nobody can ignore. Rhythm. Purdy needs to feel real pressure, plant his foot, and cut it loose without hesitation. An aggressive practice during the week is the final test. If he responds well, the confidence in the locker room jumps a level, because the feeling is that with him fully right, this offense can go back to looking unstoppable. While that echoes around Levi's Stadium, there's another storyline growing behind the scenes that could dramatically affect Robert Saleh's defensive system, the very real possibility of bringing back a familiar face, Quan Alexander. And it's not an exaggeration to say that name splits the fan base. On one side, you've got the fans who remember the insane energy, the vocal leadership, the guy who lit up the defense just by the way he played. On the other, those who worry about the injury history and whether any of that explosive burst is still there. But the truth is, for the point this roster is at, he's exactly the kind of calculated gamble that makes sense. And this is not fantasy. The free agent market in November is shallow, slow, almost dead. The guys still on the street usually aren't instant fixes, but Quan doesn't fit that mold completely. He's already lived in this system. He knows Saleh's philosophy, the zone principles, the pre-snap checks, the linebacker reads. That doesn't just speed up his adaptation, it reduces mistakes. And in a defense that has been giving up yards because of slow reactions, that detail changes everything. His importance would go way beyond whatever he still brings physically. Right now, the most critical point for this team is the inconsistency from the linebackers next to Fred Warner, especially after D. Winters' steep drop-off. That's where Quan's impact gets really interesting. When he was with the Jets, Quincy Williams took his big step forward because of that relationship. Leadership, energy, and especially understanding zone coverage. Williams stopped being just a chaotic missile and turned into a reliable player, able to align himself right and react on time. Now picture that same effect on Winters, who started the season on fire and then fell off a cliff. The numbers don't lie. He went from PFF grades above 74 in the early weeks to games under 60, and in some matchups, getting picked apart in coverage. Once Fred went down, everything got worse. Winters lost confidence, lost timing, lost that instinct that seemed so natural early on. A veteran like Quan could help exactly in that mental area. The right step, the right key, the quarterback read, the discipline inside the scheme. And let's be honest, if you're going shopping off the street, it makes way more sense to bring in an experienced vocal guy who understands the culture than to blindly roll the dice on someone with zero history in the system. For such a sensitive position in the structure of this defense, that small spark of leadership might be exactly the push they're missing. While that debate about an outside addition takes shape, inside the current roster there are two pieces with massive potential to flip the season's narrative: George Kittle and Malik Mustafa. They're at completely different stages of their careers, but by coincidence or fate, they might be exactly what the red and gold needs to rebalance this team and rediscover the rhythm from that 4-1 start. With Kittle, the feeling is simple. He's on the verge of a breakout. Against the Rams, even in a messy game, he was the first guy to reignite the offense. That diving grab to convert on third down wasn't just a highlight, it was a statement. The crowd got up, the stadium's energy shifted, and it really felt like the old Kittle was back. And there's a detail you can't ignore. The two best rushing performances from this team happened with him in the lineup. That's not coincidence, that's direct impact. His blocking completely changes the flow of the offense. When the passing game started to click again, with 84 yards and his best receiving day of the season, fans could smell a turning point. The reality is, the 49ers offense runs at a totally different level when Kittle is dominant. The game plan opens up, defenses get stressed, and everything looks smoother. If he hits that stride for the stretch run, the whole team breathes differently. On the other side of the ball, Malik Mustafa has quietly emerged as one of the most important names on the roster. He missed the first 5 games and only came in during the phase when the defense was wobbling, but none of those issues were on him. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, his impact has been obvious. As the last line of defense, he's been steady, precise, and most importantly, trustworthy in coverage, something this unit desperately lacked. Sure, you might be seeing a bit too much of him in run support, which points straight at problems with the defensive line. But even then, he's been an anchor. He's not some next Fred Warner kind of phenom, but he's absolutely a guy who quietly raises the unit's level. And that's exactly what a supposed playoff contender needs down the stretch. Someone who just does their job at a high level without needing a spotlight. Kittle reignites the offense. Mustafa stabilizes the defense. 2 different paths, one clear message. If those two truly take over now, the entire outlook for the Niners changes. While those names start to shift the vibe inside the locker room, there's one more piece, seemingly low profile but absolutely crucial, that can redefine how this 49ers offense plays from here on out. Ben Bartch. He's not a star, not a headline name, not the guy the fan base usually puts at the center of its debates. But for anyone who really understands how this offensive line functions and the issues it's had in recent weeks, his return might be that silent turning point, the kind you only really notice when the offense finally starts to look right again. Bartch opened the year as a starter in the first 2 games, but a serious high ankle sprain knocked him out for almost 2 months. In that stretch, the rotation got messy. Connor Colby was up and down, Nick Zakelj couldn't hold up, and in the end, Spencer Burford had to be moved to back up Trent Williams at left tackle, leaving right guard even more exposed. The result? Constant pressure, the pocket collapsing early, and a run game that never found consistent rhythm. Bartch's return, even in a limited role, changes everything because he raises the floor of the entire unit. He doesn't have to be a monster. He just has to be solid, and that's exactly what he was in his first game back. 28 snaps, nothing flashy, but a clean technical performance with very few mistakes. Shanahan praised it. The staff saw progress, and deep down, that's what this offense needs: stability. The plan looks a lot like what they did with Malik Mustafa. 2 weeks of partial involvement, then a full go to truly take over the job. If that holds, the offensive line finally gets a more coherent structure, with Bartch locked in inside and Burford free to handle backup duties on the left side if Trent needs a breather or has any kind of setback, and the impact goes way beyond direct pass protection. A more stable line gives Purdy the confidence to hit his back foot and fire, opens clearer lanes for the run game, and most importantly, keeps the offense from being forced to abandon the game plan just because of interior pressure. Remember, the Niners have been among the worst teams in the league in pressure allowed over expectation. If Bartch can simply drag that number from bottom of the barrel to around average, the effect will be massive on rhythm, confidence, and execution. The only real question now is whether Shanahan gives him 1 more week in a rotational role or just hands him the job full-time. Based on what we've seen and what this team needs, it might be time to let him take full control of that spot. After all of this, it's impossible not to feel that the 49ers are at that point in the season where every detail can change absolutely everything. The possible return of Purdy, the quiet impact of Pearsall, the leadership a veteran like Quan can bring, the spark Kittle and Mustafa are hinting at, and the stabilizing presence of Barch all paint a clear picture. This team has not had its final say. The real question is, do you believe these pieces together are enough to flip the script? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ride with us to the very end of this season.